June 11, 1955, 24 hours of Le Mans. Pierre Levegh's Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR flies over the crowd, causing more than 80 casualties. A car could not and should not fly, yet that day it did, appending the history of the competition. 45 years later, the roar of Mercedes engines returned to the same circuit with the motivation of erasing a dramatic past. But this time, everything had changed, everything was different. A Mercedes could not fly, or so it was thought.
But it has gone again! There it is, it's into the trees.
Mercedes' origins trace back to an infamous dark past. Notoriously the car of choice for Adolf Hitler, it was in the 1930s that Nazi Germany used motorsport as a propaganda tool, funding the Stuttgart-based manufacturer to become unbeatable. Its powerful and futuristic silver arrows dominated racing over the years, prompting the world to look in awe and admiration of German engineering. In times of war, Mercedes factories were converted to produce aircraft engines and military vehicles, contributing to Hitler's war machine. After the war, the idea of redemption was speed.
Fangio finishes in front of Kling. A double victory for Mercedes.
In the 1950s, Mercedes returned to the race of races, the 24 hours of Le Mans, with one goal in mind: to prove that Germany stood not only for destruction, but also for technological progress. The 24 hours of Le Mans has never been a simple race. It is a challenge against time and a relentless battle for survival. Since 1923, the world's greatest automakers have competed on this unforgiving circuit of endless straight and treacherous turns. To win Le Mans is to enter immortality. But in 1955, the quest for glory became fatal. A crowd of 250,000 filled the stands in the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans, waiting to witness an epic battle between the German Mercedes and the English Jaguar. But during the race, Jaguar driver Mike Hawthorne suddenly slowed down to pit. Behind him, the slower Austin Healey of Lance Macklin tried to avoid him, but ended up in the path of Pierre Levegh's Mercedes 300 SLR. The impact was devastating. The Mercedes took off, disintegrated, and its fiery debris flew into the crowd. 80 spectators lost their lives, struck by glowing wreckage and the explosion of the car's engine. Le Mans became an open-air cemetery. The race never stopped and saw Hawthorne win. The tragedy shook the whole world.
Just up here on the left where the terrible accident occurred last year.
Hawthorne decided to retire from racing only at 29 in 1958, seeking to distance himself from the world that had seen him indirectly unleash such devastation. But on January 22, 1959, he died in a car accident near London. In a tragic twist of fate, he was overtaking a Mercedes-Benz while driving in his 3.4 Jaguar when another vehicle crashed into him. Mercedes, though relieved of any blame for the tragedy, decided to retire from racing for more than 30 years, with the ghost of that car flying toward the helpless public, continuing to hover unabated. For decades, Mercedes remained true to its promise, staying away from racing. But in the 1980s, the passion for top speed returned into the Stuttgart-based manufacturer's veins. Mercedes' return to endurance racing took shape through a new partnership with entrepreneur Peter Sauber and his Sauber Motorsport. The Sauber C8 was the first car to embody this partnership. Designed to compete in the World Sports Car Championship and at Le Mans, it represented the innovation and ambition of a new era that sought to redeem a tragic past. However, this beginning of a new sporting history was marked by a disturbing accident that brought back memories of that never so distant tragedy. In a test session at Le Mans in 1985, driver John Nielsen was involved in a serious accident. The Sauber C8, under condition of high speed and extreme aerodynamic stress, took flight. It did so on the Mulsanne Strait, the circuit's long and legendary strait that in the early 900s was used as a runway by the pioneer of flight, Wilbur Wright. At the end of this long road, the Mulsanne bump, it was there that Nilsson's Sauber Mercedes took off. The driver emerged unharmed, but that episode was a clear omen, an ominous warning to the German manufacturer. Mercedes soon forgot about that accident. After years of struggle, the Sauber Mercedes C9 dominated Le Mans 24 Hours in 1989. And in qualifying that same year, the cars touched 250 miles per hour on the Mulsanne Strait. Here, it was decided by the organization to opt for safety, or for something similar, with 2 chicanes inserted into the long 2.5 mile straight to lower speeds. The Mercedes Sauber domination also due to this choice vanished soon after, and the German manufacturer decided once again to say goodbye, but not for long. Mercedes would soon return, in search of total and official glory. In 1998, the factory of the three-pointed star entered the GT Challenge. The CLK LM was fielded, an ultra-fast fireball that dominated the championship of '98. But at Le Mans, both cars retired due to engine failures. Mercedes did not give up. In fact, they decided to return the year after with the defining race car of their entire history, the CLR. A machine designed to win. With more than 20,000 hours of testing on every type of track available, the car featured a futuristic design, and the classic three-pointed star aesthetic was implemented in its front end, something strongly desired by the higher-ups. 3 crews were unveiled. Among the prominent drivers, young ace Mark Webber, already starring with the CLK LM in the GT Championship, and Peter Dumbreck, a young champion of the Japanese Formula 3. The Mercedes team was determined to prove that the shadows of the past had finally faded. But in June 1999, at the 67 24 Hours of Le Mans, the unthinkable happened.
And here's drama. This is the Mark Webber car, and look at the damage to that Mercedes. It appears that he actually flipped.
In qualifying, Mark Webber, at top speed on the long straight in CLR number 4, suddenly lifted off, taking off abruptly and landing hard. The incident was resoundingly missed by the live television feed. Webber was hospitalized for evaluation and then came back to the garage, frightened. The real injury came when I realized that the team didn't believe my own version of what had happened. Their response, no, it couldn't happen. The car couldn't possibly flip end over end. How could they dismiss my explanation of events so lightly? Although the team had access to data confirming that the car had indeed taken off, they were skeptical. Lack of footage or photographs of the moment fueled their refusal to accept what had happened. Not only that, Mercedes decided to rebuild the car, which would be ready for Saturday's race, with Mark Webber forced to drive it. On Saturday morning, Mercedes fielded 3 cars for the warm-up, forgetting the incident and arriving at the track with an air of triumph. But in the air, there again ended up the number 4 CLR, with Webber at the wheel. Webber was at the Mulsanne Strait, the Uno d'Air, exactly at the Mulsanne speed bump. The front end of the CLR lifted off, and the car took off like a jet and flipped over, landing ruinously. And this time, everyone had seen what had really happened. The accident was captured live and photographed extensively. Webber miraculously emerged unharmed again, but with the knowledge that that car had disturbing flaws hidden in its aerodynamics. I could see the sky, then the ground, then the sky again. I was a passenger in this 1,000-pound race car, suspended 10 meters above the ground at 300 kilometers per hour. And it's all in slow motion as this thing that weighs a ton feels as light as a leaf in the wind. It's true what they say. At a moment like that, your life does flash before you. The images, the chapters that machine gunned themselves across my mind as they did when I was in the air were phenomenal. My sister LeMans had her first baby the year before. I thought of them, and then I'm too young. Then bloody hell, it's Thursday night at LeMans. Maybe this is it. The whole thing seemed to take 5 or 6 minutes, but it was probably only 3 or 4 seconds. I rang Jürgen, the team manager, and he said, "Mark, what are you doing with our cars?" He was fuming with me. That was his gut reaction, and for me, that was another big kick in the balls. When I got back there was a big curtain between me and the people running the team. I was so upset that I made the decision to leave before the race even started. I was on my own. The so much wanted front design of the car was too long, and because of that it generated too much lift when reaching a bump at high speed or in extreme turbulence in the wake of other cars. With one less car on field to track and with the knowledge that they had produced fundamentally dangerous cars, Mercedes decided to race anyway. They latched onto the idea that only the number 4 had these accidents and therefore the problem could only be relative to that car. But it wasn't.
And we certainly hope to see you back here at Le Mans as well.
Oh
and
boy,
I can
look
tell
at the
you,
way that car
bounces
down the road. It's unbelievable.
On race day, everything started brilliantly for the team, with the cars in great positions and the drivers fighting for victory. However, on lap number 75, the Le Mans dream became a nightmare once again.
And that Porsche obviously blundered the attack by the Mercedes, but it has gone again! There it is, it's into the trees. Unbelievable! That is what we have seen twice already this weekend, and that was
Peter Dumbreck's flight was framed on live TV as he disappeared in the smoke and the trees, as terror began to spread among the audience, the race officials, and the Mercedes team. Dumbreck lost consciousness, but was unarmed. Immediately after the accident, the panicked Mercedes team decided to retire the only car left in the race, literally closing the shutters of their garage. The following year, the level of the Mulsanne hump was lowered by 30 feet. Mercedes would never compete again in the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Just think how I don't know what time before they took them down. They did their logging, but probably a month before, a few weeks before.
It was within the same year, yeah.
Yeah, and
the previous year there was trees here.
So I landed in that gap.
I didn't know that.
Which I could have easily not landed in that gap and landed straight into a bunch of big, thick trunk trees, and they don't give way, do they?
No.
Lots of things went my way that day.